All right, that moves us into the other part of the show today. Like I said at the beginning of the show, convocation is done, and fresh university grads are out in the world charting courses towards careers. For some, that path is an entrepreneurial one. Today on the show, you're going to hear I've got a new entrepreneur sitting right next to me, actually, and there's going to be another one on the phone. And we've got some folks who help cultivate success. So, joining me now in the studio, we've got Dean McIsaac, Success Manager for the Enterprise at the Genesis Center. We've got Rohan Ramjansingh with Inverte, and Jacqueline Lee, CEO of Poly Unity and Client Success Committee, Genesis. Hi, folks. How you doing? Thanks for coming in.
Doing great.
Thanks, Adam.
Doing good.
Where do we, starting with this, here's a question. The world can be like the business world or moving out into your life, right? Charting a course, it's hard. And the little tiny bits I know about being an entrepreneur doesn't sound easy. Why do it?
Oh, wow. What a great question. Name a reason. I mean, there are so many. Some people want to be rich.
Yeah.
Just want to make all that money that they hear about. Some people have a personal mission. They want to fulfill a dream. Some people just don't like working for people. What do you think?
Yeah, in my case and my co-founder's case, we have a mission to save the world.
So just a small mission, right?
Yeah, by preventing food waste, yeah.
Ryan, tell us about your company and how you want to try to help save the world through this bit for helping to prevent food waste, because that's such an important thing.
Yeah, so we are a startup based in St. John's here, and we're in the food tech space. We help restaurants reduce food and plastic waste in their kitchen by providing guidance to the cooks.
Okay. What types of guidance?
So whenever they're portioning, we provide them like a traffic light system. So if you're portioning and you're overserving your customer, you get a red light. So it means that you have to drop in the food back to the container. If you have the correct portions, you will get green light. And if you're underserving the customer, you'll get a blue light. To ensure that like all the portions coming out of your kitchen is uniform.
Yeah, right. So when you were researching this or looking into it, were you surprised at all by the amount of food wastage that you can see in places?
Yeah, there's out of 100 portions that comes out of a kitchen, 40% of them are either overserving or underserving. So that means there's no uniformity in the portions.
So then, is it like a computer software? What is it that will help people with the light system?
It's both. It's like a smart scale.
Yep.
So you place your container on the scale, and whenever you remove the food from the container, you'll get the guidance. And we also have a software where you can track like all the portions you have completed, how accurate they were, and like the time taken to complete the portions. So yeah, we store everything on the cloud.
Yeah, and if running a restaurant, it's really important to know. Hey, here's the food we've purchased, right? Here's the orders. Here's the portions we're putting out. We need to know if it's too much, not enough, just right, and to keep track of everything in order to. I mean, it helps with the bottom line, right, for companies, but then also preventing food wastage is huge nowadays.
It is,
and should be.
Yeah, especially like the price of food is going up.
Yeah.
So we help the restaurants as well to make more profit. So we're helping the environment and also the restaurants.
How long have you been working on this idea for?
Since 4 years now.
4 years.
Yeah.
So how did the idea start? So for example, the other day I was going for a run around St. John's, and I stopped and I just wrote down a note for like a show idea. I know this is really small. This is not like a big company thing, but so this is how I do ideas, right? Or sometimes I'm out of the shower. I'm like, that's what I should write for the show tomorrow, even though sometimes I can't think at all. So what was the eureka moment for you guys?
So the idea came from my co-founder, Johan Arcos Mendes. So he was participating in a hackathon. That's where he got the idea of starting this company.
So when he came to you, what was it? He was like, I was at a hackathon, and like, what did he say?
He got the idea from a restaurant owner who said we have this problem of portioning and food waste in our business. So find a way to help us.
Yeah.
So that's how he came up with this idea.
Cool.
Adam, have you ever worked at a restaurant?
When I graduated high school, I worked at a fast food restaurant for a summer and I made $4.75 an hour in 1998.
I remember those days.
Yeah, I do. Because we're around the same age.
Yeah. But what's really interesting, I used to work, in I would say in the restaurant industry, and I was putting together food items, and we were instructed to, and I'm lucky enough to work with Inverte, so I know a little bit about their technology. And we were instructed to use a scale, a physical scale. So you'd put together your food item before you put it into the oven. You're supposed to place it on a scale and follow all these things that are written on the wall. Mm-hmm. Seems very easy and intuitive, but in practicality, if you're having a fast day at a restaurant, what are you doing? You're gut check. You're just, it feels like this is right
eyeballing it.
Yeah. And I eyeballed for the entire time I was a youth. That scale it got rusty. Right? So what's really cool about and I've seen their product in action, and what's really cool, it's just you pick it up, it's green, red, yellow, just your yes or no, and you just get to move on about your day. So the restaurants love it, the managers love it, and the customers get a solid experience every single time. They're not getting me over serving them cheese and they get this greasy mess. They're getting the exact thing they ordered every single time.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
And when we're talking about restaurants, right, like consistency is everything. It's like you need to have a standard time and time again, hundreds of times a day, across the week and months and everything else. Because if it varies, well, then you're losing out on customers, right?
Plus, more money.
Yeah, and money, right? The bottom line. This we heard about a problem, right? So Jacqueline, talk to folks about tech and just because that's what a lot of tech companies, it's like startups. It's like you find a solution to a problem, and it can be monetized into a company if it's a good enough idea and it works out well.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's such a cool idea, Rohan. I spent 6 years at McDonald's going through university, and raw wastage was something we reported on every shift. It was incredibly important metric, but it was all about minimizing discarded cooked food. It was not about portion control at all. So I think this could revolutionize the restaurant industry for sure.
Yeah.
From all kinds of aspects. So kudos to you.
So and I'll ask you about the pipeline in a second, like going through Genesis.
Okay, yeah.
But if we go like broad, what's going on for folks to understand again? And we've talked about Genesis before on the show, but give an explainer of what is happening there and how like this part of the pipeline's working for getting folks in with ideas and helping to uplift them to go out into the world as, from little chicks to flying amazing birds of enterprise soaring in the sky.
Yeah, enterprise is a great name for it. So I am lucky enough to work at Genesis. When I moved here to St. John's 13 years ago, I heard about Genesis. I said, it sounds like a really cool place. Now that I work there, I can confirm it's a really cool place. Mm-hmm. So we're one of Newfoundland's best kept secrets where we have the ability to take someone who has an idea for a company, a problem they want to solve, typically for themselves. I have an idea. How do I do that? How do I make that a thing? How do I turn it into a business? Well, you come and have a chat with us, essentially. Come into our first program, which is called Evolution. It's 8 weeks. It trains you how to talk about your problem, pitch it, go talk to customers and validate, hey, this is a real thing people want to solve. You move from there to the next stage, which is called Evolution Plus. That's 6 to 9 months of pre-incubation, we call it, where you kind of learn more about how to make a business out of things. And the ultimate goal for most companies, Rohan, I would say yes, is to get into the enterprise program, which is a program I'm fortunate enough to manage, where it's a 3-year incubation program and you really start getting into traction. You have your product built, you've got something you can put in front of customers, you get them to use it, you learn how to talk to your customers well, you start thinking about getting investment so you can do that scale. And we administer $50,000 of non-dilutive funding to those companies. So I think that the funding is really the carrot that a lot of people think about, but all the other aspects are actually the things that really drive the company forward. And the network of companies we have 27 companies right now that we're incubating for 3 years. Mm-hmm. Just think about that. In this small city, in this small population, that much innovation, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. What's the range then? We're talking about a lot of innovation. So here we're talking about innovation for the restaurant industry and food wastage. What other things have you seen? I know it's a
throw me an
ton,
idea,
right?
not
Like
that we're
everything.
covering it.
You
Yeah.
know.
So we are tech based. So typically there's software involved, but it's healthcare, through restaurant industry, through agriculture, through the construction industry. Throw me another vertical, and we probably have someone playing in that space. Safety industry.
All of it, right?
Yeah.
And Jacqueline, tell us about your involvement with Genesis.
Oh gosh. The company I was with prior was a Genesis member. We are an alumni. See, Skyhawk Telematics is on the wall, and what a wall that is! Hey, of accomplished companies that are out there doing great things. The ecosystem is wonderful. Our company, Polyunity, wouldn't exist without the ecosystem in place. We were founded through MUN. Our three founders were medical doctors that met in med school. They pitched at a Millward Wood Cup with the MCE program, and we won. And we were just saying the other day, looking back at some of those Millward Wood Cup winners and where they are today, the success rate must be enormous. That small check, was the impetus to incorporate our business and hire our first employee. It provided the significant enough funding to get an NRC project approved, and that's how we were born. And as I said, our three doctors met in med school. They established MUN Med 3D is what it was called, and it still exists today in a format. And really started to explore 3D printing and how it could have applications in healthcare.
There seems to be, just in the last decade or so, like just the amount of support for folks who have ideas and want to develop them with mentorship and like all of that, plus some early funding. There seems to be a lot of real great structures that exist here that if you go back not too long ago, weren't around. I mean, like you said, like with all of these different folks with ideas that are being developed, that looks like such a win for the local, or can be such a win for the local economy with the promise that is there, even though I'm sure there's stuff further on down that to talk about, but just these levels, these foundations. So what else do you think, is there anything else needed at this level, or is this pretty, like, is the structure pretty good?
Oh gosh, there's lots of stuff needed. I think what we're doing better at today is connecting the dots.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of this existed before, but we certainly didn't talk to each other. And now we are. Like TechNL and Genesis collaborate and do all kinds of things and talk to each other all the time. And we're trying to foster and grow some of the same companies. The peer groups that you see popping up, is specialized in certain job groups or certain sectors, is amazing. So I think what you see here in Newfoundland, what you don't see anywhere else, and welcome to challenge me on this, is that we talk to each other and we support each other and we share resources, and it's incredible. So I think we got to go deep and leverage that as much as we can. What do you think, Dean?
No, I agree. The number one thing people will say we need more of is money, obviously. Funding, 40% of startups fail due to lack of funding in some way, shape, or form, whether they're not getting traction or they don't have an MVP and they need funding to get that MVP built. But, Florian Villeneuve, the CEO of TechNL, a long time ago, he did a subway map, and it showed all the different players within our community. It was a great thing, and we've looked at it again with Genesis, and a lot of those players are still in the game, but now we all talk to each other. So, MUN does a great job with MCE. TechNL has Bounce Innovation, which is healthcare focused. Genesis connected to all of those, and what's actually more important is that we're regionally connected as well. So Volta in Halifax, we're really close friends with them. They do essentially the same thing we do in very similar fashion. But we share companies. Propel, we share companies. So if you're incubated with one of us, you can be incubated with multiple places. Are you guys, Rohan, incubated anywhere else?
No, only with Genesis for the moment.
That's because we're the best. No, but we do have a great ecosystem locally, but also regionally, which then, the Canadian way, like we're also connected nationally. Like, Michelle, our former CEO, she was in Calgary last year, meeting with all these other heads of all these other incubators and sharing best practices and, helping each other out. So, yeah, it's pretty great.
You mentioned the Memorial Center for Entrepreneurship. So speaking of that, Kelly Fay is on the line, interim program manager. How you doing?
Great. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Give us the broad or the not too broad. Give us the description of what MCE is and does.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Yeah. So as the Center for Entrepreneurship, we have created a space for all students from all disciplines and faculty with all things entrepreneurial, from answering questions for support and learning with or without a business idea. And we offer programming, micro, early stage funding, startup coaching, events like the Game Jam and the Epic Melbourne Cup, pitch competition, which Jacqueline Lee just mentioned. And we have an active Slack channel, which we share events and funding opportunities. And what I love most and feel so thankful for is to witness the students supporting other students on the Slack channel. It's really cool.
So what are some of the ideas that you're seeing at the Center for Entrepreneurship?
Well, right now, we have Tuckmore Technologies. It is a founding company they're developing the first prototype. It's a mask for firefighters utilizing AR and thermal imaging. We have Clay by Alley, and she is making handmade jewelry with polymer clay. We have NutriForge, which is creating an app simplifying personalized nutrition. And we have 619, which is doing live performance using motion capture and VR.
So this is, and I know there's a tech discussion happening within the studio here, but then with you on the line talking about the Center for Entrepreneurship, the range, it's not just the tech side either, right? Because some of the examples you gave there, it's a big, broad range of ideas. So for your side, it's for folks who have stuff that's not, like, it could be tech, but it could be also outside of it, right?
Correct. And we actually, the history is that we actually did start as tech. That was 10 years ago, and 9 years ago, and next year is our 10th year anniversary. And we actually, since Ed Martin, our director, started a couple of years ago, he really wanted to expand the space. And I feel really great about that because right now we have, as I said, Clay by Alley, so she's an artist, as well as a computer engineer. We had a PhD in humanities in one of our programs last fall. So it's really, and then Jessica Lamar, who is creating a land-based fish feed from insects. Her company is Invertible. And so it's a diverse range of startups, and love it.
That's
so cool.
What?
Yeah.
So for any students or folks out there who are, interested in enterprise and thinking about Memorial University, what's a good message for them to kind of understand how to get in touch or just what they should be thinking for getting in touch with you folks?
Well, what I'm thrilled about is that you don't have to have a business idea. If you just have any kind of curiosity about what entrepreneurship is, we invite students to just drop by. We're in the engineering building, EN 3075. If you do have a business idea, stop by and we'll chat with you. We have our website, which is mun.ca/MCE. We also have our social media on Insta, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And then we also have, starting in the fall, we have monthly community meetups. And really that's for all community. And we just want to bring together the ecosystem for entrepreneurial-minded thinking people.
Yeah. No, I get that, right? Because you could be sitting down thinking forever, I'd love to try to do something. But if you don't know anyone else doing it and you don't really have a roadmap for yourself because you haven't done it before, it could seem pretty daunting. But the minute you meet someone, it's like, no, I did that. And here's how it works for me. It makes it easier.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I can't say enough. I get all kind of passionate about working with the students, but they're so brilliant, and they are just so beautiful. They really collaborate and support each other. It's a really beautiful thing. Yeah, can't say enough.
Excellent. I will, for today, I'll say thank you so much for this. I appreciate you coming on the show and talking about the Memorial Centre for Entrepreneurship. It's great. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Andy.
Kelly Fay there, interim program manager. You are listening to The Signal. I'm Adam Walsh. Today on the show, it's the season of, yesterday I was at Holy Spirit High School with the show. We're talking about new high school grads. We're in this convocation season, so the convocation is done. The fresh university grads are out there in the world charting courses towards careers. For some, it could be entrepreneurial, right? It could be to become entrepreneurs. So joining me here in the studio with me through the big chunk of this show for today, we've got Dean McIsaac, Success Manager for Enterprise at the Genesis Center, Rohan Ramjan with Inverte, and Jacqueline Lee, CEO of Poly Unity and Client Success Committee Genesis. Rohan, talk to me about your experience through Genesis from when you started with them and what you were learning through the whole your involvement with them.
And remember, I'm right here.
He's like, it was horrible. I'm kidding.
So we started with the accelerator program, but I wasn't in the company at that moment. But up to now, I can say that we got lots of support in terms of, for example, me and Johan were both technical students. We did computer science. So in terms of business, we might need some advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, to take some
how
decisions.
to do the technical stuff, but the business side, we're not business students.
But Genesis has been helping us a lot, especially Dean. We have meetings every 2 weeks. Yeah. To discuss our progress in terms of business, how we're doing, and make plans.
So then if we think, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you want to be? What do you want your business to be?
5 or 10 years from now, we want the business to be all across the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up and running everywhere.
Yeah. But not only for restaurants, but we want to help hotels, homes, and even cruise ships where they have and anything linked to
anywhere
restaurant.
that's selling and making food, you want to be there.
Yeah.
So in order to get to that point, what else do you need now? What are the next steps then?
Funding.
Funding, yeah. Right. And we've got another guest we're going to go to on the phone shortly. But Jacqueline, everyone knows money is important.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously.
Absolutely.
And if you want to have a company and upscale and have staff and expand, but how hard is it sometimes to get funding?
Well, the best kind of funding is revenue, right? That's what we're all after. Nobody necessarily wants to be filling out these funding applications. We all want revenue. But until we get there, the funding community is so vital. Now, to Newfoundland's credit, we've got some very engaged political leaders and funding agencies, ACOA, NRC, IET, and there's others that are incredible and responsive, and they know our companies on first-name basis, and they continue to support us from the very beginning. And they're essential. Yeah. Now, that said, it is incredibly time-consuming filling out these reports. So if there's any feedback, if anyone's listening, if we could make those reports a little bit easier, that would be amazing. But it's incredibly important. They wouldn't survive without it. We can't grow without it. We can't build our MVPs or our prototypes. We can't create initial inventory. You can't hire those first employees.
The economy being what it's been in the last couple of years, has there been a shift in? Because I remember just even fresh coming out or through the pandemic, it was a different type of conversation about funding as opposed to some things I've heard in the last couple of years. Has stuff changed, or even from 2019 to now with the funding that is out there for perhaps non-governmental funding for startups?
Or the VC world.
Yeah.
Or even private equity. There is... in my career, I've never seen a more challenging time to try to raise funds.
Yeah.
And some of the VC companies out there, they're very specific and targeted, and they want quick returns, and they want to see those revenue numbers. And some of the spaces and companies we're producing, these are first to market. These are world-class innovations. These, it's so new. You don't have competitors necessarily. You don't have metrics or comparables to compare to. So it's really, really tough. And there's lots of VCs out there, and they will take your meeting and take your time. They want to fill the pipeline, right, for future.
And
But,
VC venture capitalist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Acronyms are not.
I like the last couple times. I'm like, I do have that right. But anyways, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't have a lot of advice on that, but
No.
it's incredibly hard. So fortunately, I mean, there's Newfoundland Ventures here with the partnership with Polaris and the government of Newfoundland and others that are committed to investing in Newfoundland companies. So that's great. We have Sandpiper Ventures, which is committed to a large proportion in Atlantic Canada, and women-led ventures. What else? What am I missing, Dean?
There's funding through organizations similar to Amal. I don't know if Amal actually does funding themselves. There's North Pine Foundation, which is not necessarily a funding agency per se, but it's a philanthropy organization supporting rural Newfoundland and Labrador, amongst other things. And they actually provide some significant funding you might have seen in the news recently for projects that will help rural Newfoundland and Labrador.
Right.
And, you know, to Jacqueline's point about the VC world, and it is probably, arguably, the most difficult time in recent history to get VC funding. What a lot of the founders don't know when they're new is that, you know, they have these dreams. I'm going to make this great thing, and people are going to give me all kinds of great money for it, and it's going to be wonderful, and I'm going to be rich, and we're going to change the world, and all these great things. But VCs have a purpose. Yeah. The point of them giving you money is to make a bunch of money back. Like a lot.
It's not philanthropical, right? It's like there's return that has to come on this. That's the point, right?
Right. So they basically get a pool of funds together, and they want to make 5 to 10 bets, give or take, and they want one of those to pay 30 or 50 times. So when they're giving you money, they're actually placing a bet on your company. So your job as a founder is to say, we are going to produce. You give us the money, we're going to produce and make all of that traction, all that revenue. We're going to make money, become really big, so that you can sell your shares of us and make a ton of money back.
Right.
It's not philanthropic at all.
No.
Typically.
Yeah.
It's a financial model.
Spending money to make money. Right?
Yeah.
That's the reason. Okay. I want to go to the phone lines. We've got Nancy Lung on the line with Simply Winning NL. I wanted to check back with Nancy, who was on the show a few months back. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Adam. Thanks for having me. We're doing good.
Good. I'm glad you're doing good. And the last time we spoke, because we did a show around the Center for Social Enterprise at Memorial University, right? And we talked to you and Simply Winning NL. Remind folks about your business.
Yeah, sure. A little bit introduce myself. I'm a recent graduate from Memorial University, and I started Simply Wedding during my study at Memorial. Simply Wedding NL is a social enterprise promotes equal wedding and zero waste wedding. We collect used wedding items from the bridal community and rent it out at affordable prices. And Dean is actually one of them who actually sell us the used wedding items and offer it for the rental for the coming bride.
What was it like going through the incubator there? Because it's a social ventures incubator. So, like, what did you learn as you went through?
I would say there was a lot of support in the social venture incubator program. It was a 1-year program there. I received tremendous mentorship support, which guided me to grow my business from a school project to ultimately incorporated and getting revenues. I have numerous workshops and meetings like-minded social entrepreneurs through the program.
Why is the social entrepreneurship so important for you, that side?
Yeah, I think social entrepreneurship is important because we want to make change with social impact, and that's where social entrepreneurs come in to balance out between businesses that only consider profit making and charity. So that's where the space of social entrepreneur fill in the gaps, and I definitely see myself making changes and meeting other like-minded social entrepreneurs here in Newfoundland and Labrador is amazing.
What's down the road for you folks then? You mentioned, is it a wedding library, was it? You told me earlier?
Well, yeah, we are actually planning to establish a Newfoundland and Labrador wedding library where people can come in and rent whatever they need for weddings, including decors, wedding dresses, and more. We see that there are a lot of one-off consumption patterns happening in the wedding industry, and really we want to target it and solve it. And also setting up the first successful case for other provinces to follow as well. We are currently working on proposal and going to secure funding, just like other states are doing.
Nancy Lung, thank you so much for coming back onto the Signal.
Thank you, Adam.
Nancy Lung there with Simply Wedding NL. Yeah, I was just looking at some of the notes around the company, right? So this is a company, like we said, that came through the Social Ventures Incubator at the Center for Social Enterprise at Memorial University. So folks, if you are curious about more on social enterprise, I mean, just go check them out and the Center for Social Enterprise. One of the stats I was looking at, arranging a wedding produces 400 pounds of garbage and 60 tons of CO2. So this is why they have eco weddings, so collecting used wedding decorations, items from the bridal community, supporting rental rather than new purchases, decorating weddings with used decoration items. I think they had it had pegs and it was for like donuts at the last time I spoke with her. It was really cool because obviously it gets clean or whatever, and you can have like either homemade or like artisan made donuts for the wedding for people coming in. And it's one of those things that, like, why would you throw that out after one use? Like, it does not make sense when it can be used over and over again. And that's where Nancy comes in. Dean, anything to add around that?
Well, it's interesting because I did actually sell some items to Nancy. So
yeah.
when my beautiful, wonderful, amazing wife and I got married, got to throw that out there.
That was really good. You're getting points there.
A little shout out there.
Yeah.
When we got married, we were just cost conscious. We wanted to do things, in a way that made sense to us. We picked a venue we loved that meant something to us. But I built a few things. So I built this 4-foot tall, essentially piece of wood, like a photo frame looking thing, and people would take Instax pictures and hang them on these little clips, right? And it was this big piece of thing that I built, and I didn't want to throw it away because it was kind of cool looking. It had like the ropes hanging across with the clothespins. It was fun, and I've kept it in our basement for 5 years, not serving any purpose. And we had cupcakes instead of a cake, so I built a cupcake stand, a tiered thing. Again, sitting in our basement. When are you going to reuse a cupcakes? I mean, I don't have cupcake parties very often personally. Well, don't know about everybody else.
You were missing out.
I want to now that I've said it, but yeah. So we had this stuff, and I met Nancy, who actually works with Genesis as well right now, and found out about our social enterprise. I said, yes, please, have these things, and I know there are bridal groups online, and there are items that get swapped and stuff, and I really think it's a smart idea, and I think that it makes sense because I feel that the younger generations are getting smarter in terms of recycling, upcycling, doing things like Inverte, like caring about waste, caring about the planet, caring about the environment. Thankfully, someone is, because our generations didn't do a great job. But I really think it's what Nancy's doing is smart, and I think that the student population seems to be moving towards that. We have about 40% students at Genesis in the Enterprise program right now. So we see a lot of students coming through, and those ideas are usually the ones that do, they're focused on a mission. They care about making the world a better place, such as Inverte, right? And they care about the things such as making a for-profit for good, like those B certified companies.
So as we talk, like we've talked through this show about enterprise, entrepreneurial spirit, thoughts, whether it's tech, social enterprise, if you're an artist with thoughts on developing a business, what role in the community do entrepreneurs play then? Like, where are these gaps that like entrepreneurs can fill? Like, what's the role here?
I'll go.
Sure.
I think they're the solution to our economic problems in this country. I think it's how we increase the revenue base, how we get the population base up and encourage more skilled immigrants to choose Canada as their home, hopefully Newfoundland. Our Tech NL's Making Waves campaign you can't open your eyes and not see
it is everywhere.
We are on every single Air Canada flight ever right now for the month of June.
And sometimes with flights, I don't know if you notice in and out of the province, you could probably watch that multiple times depending on the routes that you end up having to take because of weather and other issues.
Hopefully. And there's not an actor in there. Like, I know all of those people.
That's cool.
First name basis, because that's what we do here. So I think it's the solution out of our problems and to make us one of the most productive and economically fruitful countries again, because from different scales that you look at, we're nowhere near the top. We got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, there's a productivity issue for Canada. Like at least statistically, like this, like the last few things I was reading this year, it's like, hey, Canada's not being as productive as it should be.
I've been reading a little bit about the NEAT metric, the number of people not employed, not in training, and not in school for youth. For 18 to 24-year-olds, and we are the second highest in the country, second to none of it only, and especially for young males are even higher. That's a terrifying metric that our young people are not active for, and I'm sure there's many reasons, and I'm going to spend time digging into this because it's terrifying and scary for what it could mean. Anyway, so... Yeah,
no, I mean, failures to launch, it's a term I heard the other day at a men's mental health thing I hosted. But this is like, it touches into that, right? If you get like, so, and which is, I mean, the whole other show. But still, like, we're talking about entrepreneurship, we're talking about the economy, we're talking about ways to get us out of these high cost of living economic times we're in. This is still a massive part of the conversation.
Make us sustainable. This is where our job growth is going to come from.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's so much to it too. You know, if I'm encouraging my teenagers now to try and figure out what you want to start as a business.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I went to university. I got a master's. You know, I did the thing, and it's great, and it worked for me, and it still works for a lot of people. But there are benefits to just saying, you know what, I'm going to try this when I'm really young. I'm going to, you know, graduating high school, I'm probably going to go to university, but I'm going to take 6 months and just try something. And maybe that thing turns into a really cool thing. You learn resilience. You learn how to deal with failure. You learn how to try and talk to people about stuff. You learn mental health practices because you have to be resilient in that way. There's so much that you will gain. I wish that I had the courage or someone kicking me in the butt to try something when I was young, because I graduated and I went right into a corporate job and had the life sucked out of me and the soul sucked out of me, and I, you know, didn't have a great time for 20 years because I worked in this corporate environment for these different big organizations.
That's my story too. But I was shy and I was introverted and I was an accountant and I was not creative. So like I took 25 years to figure out that I'm great at what I'm doing today. And that's the other thing. You can be in entrepreneurship. You can be in the startup ecosystem and not be any of those things and flourish. So, I mean, that one of the misconceptions we're trying to do with TechNL and in the tech space is that there's a space for everyone, no matter what you look like, what you love, what you enjoy doing. So you don't have to have the idea. You don't have to found a company, but you can certainly join and participate in one.
Yeah, because there's lots of jobs within these companies.
Yeah.
Rohan, before you start at university, right? Or if you could, let's go to your first year of university.
Okay.
And look at you now and what you're doing. Would you, at first year university, be surprised where you are now, or was this your plan all along?
No, it was never my plan.
What would young Rohan think about where you are now? Would you be like, would it be impressive? Would you just be shocked? Like,
Yeah, that's something massive because my plan was like finish university and get a corporate job, like just like Dean said.
Yeah. And now you're making plans with a company.
Yeah.
And
I don't regret it.
No. Well, I mean, that's good that you don't regret it. Do you get nervous though? Like, is it stressful?
Yeah. Can be stressful sometimes, but you have to deal with it.
Yeah. Right. So what do you do to deal with some of the stress around launching a company, pitching, going through the genesis and the tech pipeline and hoping to grow this thing to a massive power?
Like my way of dealing with everything is having a routine. like doing certain things. Not, for example, I wake up early and go to the gym.
Yeah.
That's something I have to do every day, and it keeps me well. So I think these kinds of things help you with dealing with stress and
Yeah, no, totally. Look, I go for runs, right? Same thing.
Yeah.
Like, this is how I deal with like show stress and stuff. It's
Yeah.
like, look, I would go run 10 kilometers and then forget about my issues for a little while. What advice would you have for someone who thinks they might want to do something kind of like what you're doing?
give it a try.
Jump in.
Yeah, you won't regret it, because even if you fail, at least you're learning something.
That's great advice. We've got less than a minute left. Any other advice from you two for this? For anyone who's listening, is thinking, maybe I want to be an entrepreneur or go into like a tech pipeline or something.
Do it. Like,
Yeah.
talk to it. Call Genesis. Drop by Genesis. We're on Signal Hill campus. Talk to someone on our team because you will enjoy the conversation.
Well, just like Kelly said, you don't have to have an idea or anything formulated. If you're curious at all, and that's one of the horrible things about coming out of childhood and into adulthood, we lose our curiosity.
No, it
But
gets
if your
driven right out of us.
curiosity-
Yeah, just keep it.
There's peer groups, there's all kinds of groups to get out there and chat with folks and get inspired.
Jacqueline, Rohan, Dean, thanks for this today. Hanging out, talk about entrepreneurial stuff. I love it. So thanks so much.
Thank
You
you.
are welcome.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. That is it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. Looking ahead to tomorrow, it's the final First Light Fridays of the season. Amanda Gear will bring you coverage for National Indigenous Peoples Day, a day when we recognize and celebrate the history, heritage, resilience, and diversity of Indigenous folks throughout Turtle Island. If you've got thoughts for The Signal, from me, show ideas, suggestions, thesignal@cbc.ca, or call the Signal line and leave a message, 709-576-5260. Thanks, folks.